picture this, right? Someone just got back from like a 2-week vacation.
Okay, yeah.
And they sit you down at a dinner party, pull out their phone to show you photos, and they say, the flights were completely on time, the hotel looked exactly like the website, the weather was a mild 70 degrees every day, and we were in bed by 10 p.m.
Oh, wow. That is a spectacular conversation killer.
Right. If you're being honest with yourself, you are probably checking your watch or looking for an excuse to refill your drink after about 30 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a trip that goes perfectly according to plan is, ironically, an utterly terrible story. It just, defies the basic rules of narrative tension.
Exactly. But imagine that same person leans in across the table, their eyes get wide, and they say, so we are stranded at a border crossing at 2 a.m. It is pouring rain, and this guy with a suspiciously cheap taxi offers us a ride.
See, now I'm listening.
Right. Suddenly you are hooked. Your brain snaps to attention. We actually crave the disaster, We lean in for the deviation from the itinerary.
They really do.
And today's mission on this deep dive is to figure out exactly how we tell those stories. We're unpacking this fascinating guide on sharing a memorable trip in English. It turns out the way we talk about travel is actually like a masterclass in English grammar and storytelling.
Yeah, completely hidden in plain sight.
Completely.
What's fascinating here is that the mechanics of how we share these experiences are incredibly universal. I mean, whether you're an English learner trying to sound more natural in conversation or just a native speaker trying to figure out why your travel stories always seem to flatline at dinner parties, the framework is the exact same.
Right, the framework doesn't change.
Exactly. The grammar rules you might have dreaded in a classroom are actually the exact tools you need to build suspense.
Okay, let's uncheck this, because what we're looking at today isn't just like some stale list of vocabulary words.
No, not at all.
It's a blueprint for narrative tension. It's the structure of how a trip going entirely sideways becomes the greatest story you have. So to really see this in action, I think we need a continuous story. I'm going to take us on a hypothetical trip to the Scottish Highlands using the specific grammatical layers from our source material, and we can pull apart the engine as we go.
I love it. Let's do it.
Let's start with the baseline. I might sit down at that dinner party and say, we were hiking up the Curragh Trail when the fog rolled in.
Okay, pause right there. Notice what you just did there effortlessly.
What? Just telling the story?
Yeah, but mechanically, you mix two entirely different verb tenses to create an immediate visual scene in a single sentence.
Oh, right.
You opened with the past continuous, we were hiking. That establishes the ongoing background context. It dictates the mood.
Right. It sets up the baseline condition of the world before the chaos hits.
Exactly. It feels incredibly open-ended. If you just say we were hiking, it implies a state of being that could have gone on forever.
Yeah, just walking forever.
But then you have to shatter that piece, which is where the simple past comes in. The fog rolled in.
The simple past is the interruption.
It is the sudden collision with reality. I mean, think about the last time you listened to someone tell a story and your mind started wandering. Chances are they stayed entirely in the simple past tense.
Like, we hiked the trail, the fog came, we felt cold.
Yes, it sounds like a robotic logbook.
It really does.
It completely lacks the dynamic tension of an ongoing, peaceful action being abruptly severed by some external force.
It's like a movie camera.
Oh, how so?
The past continuous, the we were hiking part, is the wide, sweeping, establishing shot of the Scottish mountains. It gives you the whole scene.
Right.
Then, the simple past, the fog rolled in, is the sudden handheld action sequence.
That's a great way to put it.
And the grammar actually gets even more layered if I add context, because then I might say, by the time we got back to where the parking lot was supposed to be, the rental car company had already canceled our reservation.
Ouch. And there it is. That introduces the past perfect tense. Had already canceled.
Yeah.
You instinctively reach for this tense to describe an event that happened before the main timeline of your trauma even began.
Like the safety net was gone before we even realized we needed it.
Exactly. You aren't consciously standing at a party thinking, oh, time to deploy the past perfect. The timeline of the disaster literally demands it to deliver that emotional gut punch to the listener.
Yeah, the setup gives you a baseline of what was normal before the story pulls the rug out. But that brings us to the phase of the trip where the rug is fully gone.
The fun part.
Right. The environment turns against you. We've set the scene in Scotland. The fog is thick. The car is gone. I lean in and say, we took a wrong turn off the main path and got completely lost.
Getting lost, the classic turning point.
Now, I have to push back on this a little because getting lost feels like such a cliche trope in travel stories. Does every good story really require someone losing their map?
I mean, it might feel like a cliche, but it's actually a structural necessity.
Really? A necessity?
Yeah, getting lost is the ultimate pivot point. Think about it. In our modern era, we are heavily insulated by technology. GPS, smartphones, translation apps, meticulously planned spreadsheets.
True, we have backup plans for our backup plans.
Exactly. Getting lost is the required mechanism that breaks that modern insulation. The moment the map fails, the safety net is gone, and the actual adventure is forced to begin. The source material points out that transforming a highly stressful moment into an engaging story often hinges on a very specific family of mishap vocabulary.
The disaster lexicon. You have phrases like miss a connection or miss the flight.
Right, but then there's a distinct escalation.
Yeah, there is a huge difference between missing a connection and getting stranded. Missing a connection implies like a temporary logistical hiccup.
A delay, basically.
Right. Getting stranded feels fundamentally heavier. It implies a total structural failure.
Getting stranded means you are entirely stripped of your agency. You are left without any way to move forward, usually due to weather or systemic breakdowns.
Like, the whole island got stranded when the final ferry of the season was canceled.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You weren't just inconvenienced, you are literally trapped by the environment.
And we can't forget the classic run out of money, run out of water, run out of daylight.
Oh, running out of daylight is a scary one.
It really is. That phrase instantly injects a ticking clock into the narrative. Or, one of the most relatable travel mishaps, you get ripped off.
Right, someone takes advantage of your vulnerability.
Exactly.
And, the everyday mishaps are just as crucial for pacing, like losing track of time or leaving something behind, or the ultimate consequence phrase, end up doing.
Oh, yeah. Like, we ended up sleeping in a sheep barn because every inn in the village was booked.
Perfectly said.
But, I've noticed we constantly use phrases like, little did I know, right before these disasters hit.
Oh, all the time.
It feels like a cheap horror movie trick, right?
Yeah.
Telegraphing the jump scare before it happens, yet we use it in casual conversation constantly. Why are we so eager to spoil our own twists?
Well, it functions exactly like a horror movie director, showing the audience the monster hiding behind the door before the protagonist even turns the handle.
Okay, I see that.
Little did I know signals to the listener, from the safe vantage point of hindsight, that the relaxing vacation narrative is a decoy.
It's a fake out.
Right. It is a promise that the impending deviation is going to be worth their time. It builds anticipation rather than spoiling the surprise. It validates that the struggle is the actual substance of the story.
That makes a lot of sense. We lean into the struggle because of human psychology. I mean, evolutionarily, we don't bond over shared luxury. We bond over shared threats.
Absolutely. Surviving a crisis builds community.
Which naturally transitions us to the next phase of the travel story. Because when the map fails and the technology dies and you are shivering in the Scottish fog, you are forced to look up from your phone.
You have to.
The physical mishap necessitates a social collision.
The environment completely fails, transferring the burden of survival onto the human element.
Right. Let's push our Scottish story forward. We're lost, freezing, and wandering down a dirt road. The narrative shifts from the landscape to the locals.
Okay.
I might say, we run into a couple of off-duty shepherds, or we struck up a conversation with the farmer whose barn we were hiding in, and they took us under their wing.
The vocabulary of chance encounters is highly specific here, and it carries profound emotional weight.
How so?
Take the phrase, run into someone. It doesn't denote a physical collision, obviously. It describes a completely uncoordinated, mathematically improbable meeting.
Right.
The sheer statistical absurdity of the encounter is what makes it narratively remarkable.
Then you have strike up a conversation. That is fundamentally different from asking someone for directions to the nearest pub.
Very different.
Striking up a conversation means a transactional, fleeting interaction suddenly deepens into something substantial. It requires mutual vulnerability.
And when you reach the absolute bottom of your luck, you use phrases like, a stranger showed us around, or someone took us under their wing.
Under their wing, yeah.
That specific idiom, framing unknown kindness as a protective, almost parental act. It transforms a deeply scary, vulnerable situation into a profound moment of human connection.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Every single one of these encounter phrases is built entirely on the concept of serendipity.
Yes, Completely unplanned.
You cannot open your itinerary app and schedule, have a life-altering 3-hour philosophical debate with a farmer in a Scottish barn at midnight.
Try putting that in a spreadsheet.
Exactly. You cannot plan to be taken under someone's wing. The total lack of premeditation is exactly why these moments become the emotional anchor of the trip.
Think about it. If you had paid a premium for a guided cultural immersion tour to meet a local farmer, it wouldn't be a story.
No, it would just be a review on a website.
Right. It would simply be a fulfilled transaction. But because a stranger offered that connection out of pure empathy when you were entirely helpless, it ascends to a narrative event. The lack of commercial transaction gives the moment its soul.
That is so true. But every struggle demands a resolution, right? We've been lost, we've been stranded, we've survived the freezing fog thanks to the kindness of strangers. Now it's morning. The sun comes up, it's time for the payoff.
The reward.
And this is where so many stories die on the vine. Because if you spend 15 minutes describing how you nearly froze to death on a mountain, and then you look at the listener and say, and the sunrise was nice, you have literally committed a crime against storytelling.
A serious crime.
Yeah.
You've completely deflated the narrative tension.
Right.
The brain demands linguistic equity.
Right.
If you have subjected your listener to the high physiological stress of a near-death storm, using a low-tier adjective like nice or pretty creates massive cognitive dissonance.
It just doesn't fit.
No. Your descriptive language must scale with the trauma of the mishap. The source material outlines this as the adjective upgrade.
The adjective upgrade, I love that. Because using nice after a disaster story is like ending a heavy, dramatic symphony with a kazoo solo.
That is a perfect analogy.
You need the heavy brass to land the plane. You need adjectives that carry real weight.
And the most reliable, heavy-hitting payoff adjective after a physical struggle is breathtaking.
Breathtaking.
It goes beyond visual beauty, right? It implies the scenery was so overwhelming, it literally halted your respiratory system. Struggle, followed by a breathtaking reward, forms the classic satisfying arc of the travel narrative.
We can push even further up the spectrum of intensity, too. If you want to keep the listener engaged, you have to match the emotion to the landscape.
Like for sweeping vistas.
Exactly. For vast sweeping vistas, you upgrade to stunning or spectacular. And if the scene is so visually flawless that your brain actually rejects it as reality, you use phrases like out of this world or like something from a movie.
Because your brain cannot process the majesty, so it just assumes it must be a Hollywood set.
Precisely. But what about a word like humbling?
Oh, consider the emotional pivot when a traveler uses the word humbling. You don't use humbling for a pleasant beach sunset.
No, not at all.
Humbling is reserved for ancient ruins that have survived millennia or, standing at the base of a towering glacier.
Right, something massive.
It is the specific vocabulary used when an environment makes you feel insignificant, but in a deeply comforting, perspective-shifting way.
And what about when the sensory input is just too much? Like when your brain simply shorts out?
That requires the word surreal. Surreal captures a dissociative, dreamlike state. It is a moment that is genuinely difficult to process in real time.
Like we stood at the edge of the cliff in total silence. It felt completely surreal.
Exactly. And to lock that memory into permanent significance, you apply intensifiers like once in a lifetime or unforgettable, signaling to the listener that this simply cannot be replicated.
Though the payoff isn't always a dramatic mountain peak either.
Oh, definitely not.
Sometimes the ultimate reward is just a bowl of hot stew in that farmer's kitchen after you've been freezing for 6 hours.
The best meal of your life.
Exactly. The guide highlights phrases that overturn expectations like, the food was nothing like I expected, delivered in a tone of absolute reverence.
It highlights the massive gap between your prior ignorance and your new reality.
Yeah, and it also invites those retroactive justifications we love to make.
Like what?
Like, it was worth every penny, or that meal was worth the trip alone. You suffered through the fog, you lost your rental car, you slept in the dirt, but that single bowl of stew, it retroactively balances the cosmic scales.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, I want to point out a fascinating mechanical trick the source mentions here.
Go for it.
When a storyteller's wrapping up the payoff, they often say, if you ever get the chance to go, don't think twice.
Oh, I say that all the time.
Right. It is a brilliant fourth wall break. For the entire story, I have been keeping you in the past tense. Past continuous, simple past, past perfect. But the second I say, if you ever get the chance, I am shifting out of past tense narration and speaking directly to you, the listener, in the present tense.
I am handing you the baton.
You're pulling them out of the memory and into the reality of the room. It is a highly sophisticated linguistic maneuver that transitions the conversation toward the final stage of sharing a trip.
Wow, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, because the most resonant stories do not just abruptly terminate when the narrator boards the flight home. They leave a lingering residue. The narrative arc demands a closing reflection.
The absolute final beat. It taught me to always.
That transition from what happened to what was learned is what separates a story from a grocery list.
We went to Scotland, we got lost, we ate stew, we came home, is a list.
It's boring.
Adding the reflection gives the chaotic timeline a definitive shape and meaning.
And the guide outlines several distinct patterns for this closing reflection. Sometimes it manifests as a highly practical, permanent change in habit.
Like ever since that night in the Highlands, I always pack a thermal blanket no matter where I'm going.
Right. The disaster literally rewired your baseline behavior.
Other times, it's a broader philosophical shift in how you view the world. It taught me not to obsess over the itinerary. The absolute best moments happen when you leave empty space for things to go wrong.
And occasionally, it is simply the emotional resolution. Tying a neat bow on the trauma with everything worked out in the end, or looking back, I wouldn't change a single thing.
Even though while you were freezing in the fog, you would have paid any amount of money to change absolutely everything.
Not completely.
Those closing lines matter deeply because they are the aftertaste of the story. They dictate how the listener files the story away in their own memory.
They really do.
So what does this all mean? If you're listening and you want to stop boring your friends at dinner parties, the source material offers a highly practical 4-pass narration exercise.
This is a great exercise.
Yeah. You take one specific real trip you took and you narrate it out loud 4 times, layering the complexity each time.
And doing this out loud is critical because spoken pacing is entirely different from written pacing.
Exactly. Pass 1 is the skeleton, just the main events in the simple past. We went to Scotland, the fog came, we got lost, we found a barn.
Very simple.
Pass 2 adds the mood. The wide-angle camera of the past continuous. We were hiking the trail when the fog came.
Setting the scene.
Right. Pass 3 weaves in the context and the flashbacks. The past. Perfect. By the time we found the road, the car company had canceled our reservation.
Adding that depth. And the final pass, pass 4, requires you to append that closing reflection in the present tense. It taught me.
And to keep the flow natural, you practice using time markers. Instead of defaulting to and then, you use structural bridges like the following morning or by the time we finally arrived.
Recording yourself doing this exercise exposes exactly where your storytelling goes flat. It's so revealing.
We've dissected the mechanics, the tense mixing, the disaster vocabulary, the serendipity of strangers, the heavy brass adjectives. But exploring all of this points towards something much larger than just how we construct sentences in English.
It really does. It cuts right to the core of how we choose to move through the world.
How do you mean?
Well, if a flawlessly executed plan rarely produces a story worth sharing, and if the most breathtaking payoffs, the deepest human connections, and the most unforgettable moments of travel are born almost exclusively from deviations, from lost maps, and from plans completely falling apart, it suggests our modern obsession with designing the perfect itinerary is fundamentally misguided.
Throw the spreadsheets in the trash.
Seriously,
Yeah.
if the wrong turn is consistently the catalyst for the reward, it implies we should be intentionally engineering vulnerability into our lives. We should be leaving empty space to get a little lost.
It makes you wonder. If your metaphorical x-ray of a trip comes back perfectly clean, with 0 broken plans, no misconnections, and no muddy deviations, did you even really experience the place at all?
That is the question.
Keep that in mind the next time you are frantically trying to control every hour of your vacation. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.